So is it time to quit your job? Like, when is the right time? And is this something you should even do? I mean, that's a lot of the questions that I was asking myself before Teresa and I both left our jobs. But that's what we are going to answer for you here today in today's workshop. I am super pumped to talk about this topic because since both of us have been able to leave our job and now become full-time business owners at home, there's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and we want to talk to you about all of those today. But ultimately, what I want to do is help you come to your decision. Here's the thing. There's a lot of things that goes through people's minds when they think about, like, should I quit a job? Like, what's like, I have a family. Like, I need security. I need stability. I need like healthcare. I need this and I need that. Is it the right time to do this? Or is this something that I shouldn't even be thinking about? That's what we want to help answer in this live workshop. So first off, if you are here on the live recording, thank you so much for making it. Even if you're watching this on replay, we greatly appreciate you. And as we go through, we're going to give you a bunch of different insights, a bunch of different things for you to think about. And at the end of this, I want you to come to your conclusion. Neither Teresa and I are going to steer you in a direction. Our job as life coaches, legacy coaches, all those clarity coaches, all those kind of coaches, is we want to help you come to your decision, but know within a definitive doubt that this is the decision for me, whether it's staying in your job or creating something brand new. And we even got something spicy for you at the end. I don't know why I said spicy, but something at the end that we're going to talk about, like, what if it is the right decision for you to leave your job? We're going to give you some different ways that you can really think about this and really come up with a tactical plan, because just waiting until the last second, until it's time to leave your job and then thinking about starting a business is one of those things which gets going to create not only overwhelm, but you're going to be adding some massive amount of stress on yourself. So today, that is what we're going to take you through. So guys, welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. We help entrepreneurs excel personally and professionally without sacrificing family time or burning themselves out. If you're new, consider subscribing. We have shorter episodes on Mondays and Thursdays, longer episodes where we dive into deeper, like we are today, on the weekends, to help personalize not only these business decisions, but also these leadership things. Because leadership and business, I really think, is synonymous with one another. A lot of it is about influencing people to take action because you want to help solve their problems. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. So welcome to the call. So who am I? I think this one requires a little bit of like lead in, because who in the world wants to hear about whether or not they should leave their job from somebody who maybe has never done this before, doesn't have any experience? So I totally get it. So I want to just describe a little bit about my own personal experience. So my name is Mark Hildebrand. I was a police sergeant for 20 years for LAPD. When I came out of LAPD, it was like my goal to just be a police officer, and I was going to do it for 33 years. What happened is there's a couple of things we're going to talk about through this presentation that steered me in the direction of, maybe I need to start my own business. Maybe I need to find a way out. Maybe I need to have something that I'm more passionate about, more purposeful with, that is not like actually making my health deteriorate and not in alignment with my core values. And so it was that point that I started my coaching business. I was able to, over several years, develop a coaching business, that allowed me to leave my full-time job and now be a stay-at-home dad, entrepreneur, whatever you want to say. Stay-at-home husband. I like those. Stay-at-home husband. And all of that sounds super simple, but there was a lot of back and forth in my brain about whether this was the right move, whether this is something I should do. Should I do this? Because at the time, Teresa had already left her job. Like, is this a decision that I should be making? Am I putting my family in jeopardy? All of those things we're going to be talking about here today. But I want to give you an idea that I feel like we are really good to give you guys like some advice from this perspective, because I really wish I had that back when I was thinking about leaving my career. And since we've done it twice, we want to be here to tell you about the mistakes we made, but also the things that we were able to do, and not only do, but also like what fueled us to take those actions. What were the things, what do they call it? The uncovering the signs that actually were evidence that we needed to get out. And when we saw those signs, we were able to reverse engineer it and actually make that happen. So that is me. That is the half of it. Actually, I'd like to think of myself as like a quarter, and the 3/4 of it is Teresa, who's here. So Teresa, welcome to the call. Can you kind of give a little bit of a intro to you and a little bit of your story?
Sure. So, my story kind of begins back in probably 2014. So what I do now is I help mom entrepreneurs really take an organizational approach to balancing their life and their business. So I'm a mom and I run a business. We run a business together, and it's still hard because we have two kids, and I have other responsibilities, but it's not impossible to really kind of create this flow to do it, and not doing it all. But I come from a background in hospital administration. So I used to work at UCLA Health, and I worked in administration, and then I got into sustainability. So I was, creating and expanding the sustainability program for the hospital. But my kids were, um, they were toddlers at the time, and every time I went to work, it got really hard for me to kind of say goodbye to the kids for many hours. It was a long commute and everything. And to make a long story short, it took uh, something to happen for me to approach Mark and like really have a conversation of whether or not we could have me leave my job. And actually, I think Mark approached me about it because I would have been too scared to even think about it. But it we made it a reality in 2016. So I left my job in 2016 to be a uh, or a full-time stay-at-home mom, but also to run the business. But it wasn't all great. So we're going to be honest here. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I feel like the ugly, talking about the ugly part is actually probably most important. And like Mark said, we're not going to steer you in one direction or another. We just want to educate you. We want to inform you so that you have enough information to make the decision yourself.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I was not listening. I was reading some stuff on Forbes.com. And I know I shared this with you right before the call, Teresa, but it was talking about 32% of people are leaving their full-time careers to start a business in 2022. So 32% of people. That is a
2023?
crazy, what?
Or they did in 2022.
They did in 2022.
Okay.
It said 32% left their job. And it's like the statistics are going up for people who want to leave their job in 2023 because, after like the whole COVID thing, I guess it just really showed us that it's not just all about like physically going into a W-2 job. Like there's many other possibilities. Like we have a lot of things that we've been able to develop. We'll learn about this a little bit later in our current job that will actually make us valuable, even more valuable in the marketplace when we own a business versus doing what we're doing within our confines of our job, right? But we also have things like skills that you can develop. Like for me, it was life coaching that actually made me also even more valuable, but plus allowed me to keep all of the things that I learned in my police career and move it over into that arena and be able to help people in multiple different areas. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. But when I saw that statistic, I'm like, this is the exact call that people need. They need to know like if it's the right move for them, because I know that some of those people made the move and they didn't take the chance to actually think about this, to have like all of these different ideas that we're going to be talking about today. And they just made the jump and they're like second guessing it now. And they're going back to their W-2s and they're going back to their jobs, feeling like a failure when in reality, just slowing down a little bit just to really ask these questions to become aware of the things that are going to happen when you leave your job if you decide to. And it just empowers you to have that knowledge before you take that leap. And so that's what we're going to do today. So what I have the 5 reasons that it might be time to leave your job. Now, at the end, we're also going to talk about like what to do if you go through these 5 reasons and you're like, wow, some of these reasons are actually reasons why I want to leave my job. Then we want to, at the end, share actually some different strategies that you can think about, because these are primarily the 3 ways that people are leaving their job right now, the things that they're doing, and they're all like a little bit different in their respect, and you'll understand that at the end, all right? But we want to dive into these 5 things right now. I'm also going to be sharing a little bit along the way some things that I want to make sure that you're not like kind of convincing yourself like having a business is easier than what you're going through right now. Let me just start off with that, all right? Even before we get into these 5 things.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not here to tell you that having a business is easier than working a W-2. In many respects, it's actually harder because here's the thing. Number 1, you don't have a boss telling you what to do. You get to decide what to do, which is great if you can get yourself to take action. It's terrible if you can't. I mean, I literally wrote a book on this because I'm really good at getting myself to take action, but a lot of people aren't. they need somebody to tell them, hey, when should you do this? When should you do that? And if you don't have that direction, you get to decide on your own. It feels great when you first get started because you have freedom, but then it sucks when you actually don't have any money coming in from your business, right? So it's not that working a business is easier than working a W-2. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because you have to attack your inner demons. You have to attack the things that really it's about self-leadership. It's like 1/3 of this entire channel, right? So leading yourself, leading your family, and leading professionally, right? Professionally in your business, right? But when you think about leading yourself, like that is something that is like through everything that you touch. And so I want to let you know that like just leaving your job does not make the world easier. I mean, you're going to have to tackle things that are different than if you were just in a job, right? Because showing up at a certain time, getting, out of there, and then you're getting paid every single month or every single week, whatever that is, like it's going to happen whether or not you show up, whether you're on your A game, whether you have energy, whether you're doing things or whether you're not, you're still going to get paid for most of the time, right? As opposed to when you have a business, it's a little bit different. All right. So I don't want to scare you, but I want you to make you aware of this, that when we're talking about this, I'm not saying that business is the solution if you want to do less. As a matter of fact, if you want to do less, probably stay in your W-2. All right. Because staying in your W-2, you have to you could do the bare minimum and you'll still get paid. But at the same time, those things that you're doing over here, if you're doing them with excellence, doing them for your business will get you paid a lot more if you're willing to get uncomfortable and to actually expand your business. Okay. So I wanted to lay that out there before we get started. All right. All right. So that was not in my notes. Sorry about that, Teresa. All right. So here's the 5 reasons. We're going to go over one at a time. All right. The first one I'm going to talk about, and this is one because it's near and dear to me, is if your W-2 is actually affecting your health. So if your W-2 is actually affecting your health. So let me tell you, a lot of people don't know this. I have something called Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disease. It was something that was kind of like dormant in my body. I guess it's something that is in my bloodline. But because of the amount of stress that police work has given me, going from radio call to radio call, people getting shot, people getting like all of these things that are like adding up, court, lack of sleep, it basically activated my autoimmune disease. And when it activated it, now it doesn't shut off. I actually have to take shots. I took one today that basically suppresses my immune system. But while I'm having that, even when I was still in my police career, even the smallest thing would make me feel terrible for days. I wouldn't have energy sometimes for days because my body attacks itself and basically makes it so that I can't, when I eat food, it can't turn it into energy. And so I noticed that my job was actually deteriorating my health. Now, here's the thing. I know I have a lot of first responders, a lot of police officers here. A lot of people are like, this is definitely like attacking my health, all right? I want you to think about this 2 ways, all right? Number one is control what you can control. So when you're there, like for me personally, I practice different routines to be able to release more stress, right? I actually put myself on a different watch. I put myself inside as admin, which if you're a police officer, like everybody wants to be on the streets because that's where like the ego gets fed and that's where all the stuff is happening. And I'm like, hey, I want to be behind the scenes because I want to have like regular days off and regular times and not like mess up my sleep schedule. And so I controlled what I could control. And it was still at that point that it still was affecting my health. And that's when I really had to have a conversation. As a matter of fact, my doctor said this. He's like, hey, Mark, he's like, I don't know when you're going to retire. He's like, but it's officially my job to just keep you alive until you do. And he was kind of joking, but at the time he also wasn't. And it was kind of like, are you joking or are you serious? And he was like, no, I'm kind of both. I like to joke around, but at the same time, I am very serious because that's literally what you're doing to your body is your body is now activating its autoimmune anytime you have a stressful situation, which by the way, guys, being a police officer, even if you're inside, there's stressful situations all the time, right? And so for me, this was my sign. Okay, this is legitimately like affecting my health. And I'm doing what I can while I'm here to like reduce the stress, to make it as little as possible. But also like I feel like every single year that I stayed was like going to be 5 years off my life. I heard this statistic once that talked about that. That talked about like when you're a police officer, let me put that on mute so Kurt doesn't yell at me. When you're a police officer, any year over 20 that you do, over 25 that you do in the field, every year is like 5 years off your life because of the extra stress and because you're not young anymore and you can't deal with that the same. Like it just does something where it deteriorates you very, very much much more quicker. And for me, I was like, okay, this is affecting my health. So do I want to continue to work here, which I love being a police officer. I love helping solve people's problems. I love being the person that afterwards they thank me for doing whatever it is that I was able to do for them. I love that. But at the same time, I kind of want to be around for my beautiful wife here and my kids and like other people that my family, my friends. I want to be around for the long term. And so for me, it was like, okay, this is a sign for me that I need to take this action. And if that is a sign for you, I want you to put a check mark in this. Is it actually affecting your health? Because if it is, check mark the box, not because that means you have to leave, but it's something that we need to attack. We need to find out, can you work through that process and make it so that it's not affecting you or making it affect you less? Or is it time to sit down and think of an exit strategy? All right. So that is number one. If it's affecting your health, that is a sign that you need to attack this and you need to think about it and figure out like what that next step is going to be. Teresa, anything on that?
It's just when you talk about it, like every time you talk about that, it angers me sometimes
Mm,
because, it went on for so long. And I mean, for a long time, we didn't know what was happening to you. Like when we were trying to, discover why like your health was really taking a nosedive
hmm
because it's kind of, it would compound, right? So, at the beginning, like nothing was really happening. Then he started to like feel symptoms, and it was kind of like stuff that we were brushing away. We're like, oh no, it's okay, whatever. But then it got to the point, which was actually coincidentally the year that I left my job. So I think that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, because there was another added stress in our life because now we didn't have second income,
hmm
and it was all relying on Mark because the business was still growing, right? So that just, and it's something we just had to go through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get upset about it, but it's like it's in the past and we've overcome that. Like we've obviously been doing so much better.
hmm
But every time I hear that, it's like, oh, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, like even just pointing that out, like so many people, well, a lot of people know I ended up losing 100 pounds, right? So we're talking about when I was in the best shape of my life is when I started to feel this way. It
Hmm.
wasn't when I was overweight. It wasn't when I wasn't giving my, time and attention to my health. It was like at that time when I was like in peak shape. I had done like a trifecta, a Spartan trifecta. I went like, it was crazy the kind of things that I was capable of doing with my own body. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just turned on, it activated. And before I knew it, like that 6 months was terrible, especially when it was like they're trying to diagnose me and trying to figure it out. Like it sucked big time. But I do want to say this, like, I mean, it happened to me, right? And so I have to take ownership of the fact that this happened to me. And now that I know what I know now, I'm actually very glad it did, because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I know, I remember like Teresa and I talk about this all the time. It's like Tuesday at like a 10:30 in the morning, and I got done with my call, and I'm just sitting right next to her on the couch going, "Hey, what do you want to do today? It's a work day, it's a business day, but like we're done. It's like 10:30. Like, what do you want to do?" We're like, let's just go walk on a walk, or let's watch something or whatever. And I'm like, dude, how lucky are we that we get to be in this position right now where we could just say, hey, we're just going to check out. We're just going to, chill for a little bit. Not that we didn't work, but at the same time, it's like all the freedom that you have when you're able to do that, when you're able to create something like this, and then not having to feel that stress that I had to feel every time, like a jury verdict comes down, or anytime like something happens in like the political space or in the news, having to respond to places. It was just a huge stress relief when we made that final decision. But yeah, when I say like it's affecting my health, it's crazy because like I said, I was in the best shape of my life when that actually happened. And that's how I was able to determine like, okay, this is something I need to change, because it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I wasn't exercising, because I was. Yeah. And so that was the first one. So I know we spent a lot of time on that one, but number two, go for it.
But well, it's still important. So
Thank you.
okay, so number two is you hate your work with a passion. I mean, you don't really have to necessarily hate it. I hate is just a strong word, right? So you don't necessarily have to hate your job, but it doesn't bring you joy, or it doesn't, fill your cup. It's not fulfilling. So these are sometimes some of the signs that, like, maybe you got to think about either changing your job, changing your career, or just like, what? I'm gonna, create something out of nothing and then just, build a business around it. But I, as life coaches, we always want to kind of start with this. Ask yourself why you hate it. Ask yourself why it is that you don't enjoy it anymore. Because you know, there's probably many reasons why you chose your job. Maybe it was just like, it was just a job and you went for it and they hired you and you're like, okay, cool. It's just a regular 9 to 5. Never really passionate about it. Or maybe you did have a passion for it and it started to wane. So really think about like why it is that you hate your job or you dislike your job, and then start to think about whether it's time to move on, because we don't want to pull things from something and just pull it into something else. So what I mean by that is, let's say you hate your job with a passion because maybe you hate your boss, you know, like this not a good person, and you're like, you know what, if I was somewhere else or if I just left and just created my own business, like I would be so much happier. However, sometimes that doesn't always happen. You just have to kind of realize the real reason why you feel the way that you do. And once you clarify that and you determine what that really is, then you can decide, you know what, I do feel this way and I know my reasons, and I feel like the best thing for me is to just move on. But you kind of give yourself the ability to not just make rash decisions or and really reflect on things, because we make choices or make decisions based on emotion, and we just have to really dive into why we're feeling that emotion before we make changes, make rash decisions sometimes.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I do want to, I want to expand on that too, because this is such a very, very valid point. It's the reason why we're not telling you to do one thing or the other. It's because everybody is kind of like affected by this a little differently. By the way, if you go back to the notes, if you're actually wanting help with not only this decision, but also like thinking about what business to start, I left an application inside of the description of the YouTube video for people who want to go through and want to have like sort of like somebody else give them some ideas and some questions to help them come to their conclusion. Once again, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but kind of what Teresa's saying is like, there's all these different reasons why we could potentially want to leave our job. In this one, when you say you hate your work with a passion, we want to dive in deeper in terms of like, why do you hate it? Like, is there a certain aspect of it? Is it a boss? Is it the hours? Is it the people that you're working with? Is it you don't feel like you're purposeful there? Is it feels like you're not like making an impact there? Does it feel like there's somebody else that you want to serve? Do you hate serving the current customers or clients that you have? Like, we want to dive into that because there's a lot of thoughts that are going through here that we want to make sure that you're aware of. Have you guys ever had that thing or seen somebody where they literally jump from relationship to relationship to relationship and they seem to be attracting the same people? They're like, oh my God, like, how about this? They go from job to job to job and nothing ever fits the bill as the perfect job. It's like, nope, I got to leave because of this, because of this, because of this. Have you ever thought for a second that maybe it's the actual person that's actually taking that thing from one situation to the other? Here's the thing. When we move from one job to another, from one boss to another, from one relationship to another, guess what continues in that new relationship? Our brain, and we bring all of these thoughts, all of these beliefs into that new situation. And I can't tell you how many times that we bring those same things over here. So we start taking the same actions, we start doing the same things, we start feeling the same way, and then it turns out the same way, but in reality, it's our part of the equation, not the other person's. This is why we want to make sure that you're not just making a rash decision and rushing in. We want you to understand what's going on and then be able to ask you some questions to figure out, okay, I can see that this is a situation, this part of this is coming from me. Let me rectify that. And also, I want to leave my job. You can make a decision, but it's not coming from a place of just immediate emotions, all right? If you kind of think about this, like the way that we talk about, we call it the push method, right? It's our universal leadership tool. It's also a universal business tool. When you can see why we're experiencing something in our life, when we're having a certain feeling in our body, it is in alignment with the actions that we're taking. So if we feel like we're angry because of our boss, we're going to take angry actions. We're not going to take like compassionate actions, right? But if we have a different like feeling, like let's say curious, like if we're just curious, like why would our boss treat us this way? We will take different actions because we feel a little differently. This is why when you have these conversations, and why I left the link for you guys inside of the show notes, because if you want to get some help that going through this, we need to ask you some personal questions to get to the root of what it is. Make sure that it's not something you're going to carry with you into another area. So that way you can make a more conscious decision without being affected by your emotions in that specific moment. Okay. So great point. All right. Number 3 is you feel like you're being mistreated. Okay. You feel like you're being mistreated. Here's the caveat to this again. Sometimes we feel like we're being mistreated, and we just need to really think about like the way that we're actually approaching the whole entire situation, right? Maybe somebody is asking you to do extra work. Maybe somebody is saying specific words that you think is kind of like rude or demeaning. Maybe they just changed your shifts all the time. Whatever that thing is, like understanding that sometimes it's actually just what's going on in here in your brain that's creating that experience for you. But also sometimes it's like, no, I don't like my boss. No, I don't like this organization. And no, I don't want to do this thing. And if that's the case, then 100% you can do something else. You can either find a new job or a new career. You can take whatever skills you've learned into somewhere else, or you can go on that path of creating your business. But if you have this thing where like you're dreading going to work every single day, I had a couple of jobs like that where like, it was like, oh my God, I do not want to go to work today. This is like, I don't like the atmosphere. I don't like what I'm doing. I'm literally just standing around for 12 hours, just like doing this. And I'm like, okay, I understand I need to make money right now, but also if I can do a different job, like that would be awesome. And it got me into finding different jobs, ultimately being able to get to where I am right now. But it's one of those things where I dreaded going into work every single day. If that's the case, once again, we need to attack that. Why is it you dread to go into work every single day? And really write it out, put it out there, right? And then you'll be able to make a more logical decision on whether this is the right move for you or not. So number 3 is you feel like you're being mistreated, or you are being mistreated. All right. And of course, at any point you can make a decision like, hey, this is the direction that I'm going to go. I am going to make a change. I am going to change departments. I am going to change wherever. Right. But just don't do it in that rash, quick decision. Instead, think of it logically, ask yourself some questions, maybe reach out to one of us to really help you solidify in your brain whether this is the right decision or not. All right, that was number 3. Anything else on that, Teresa?
Yeah, actually, it's something that I thought about, and it could be an example of what you mentioned earlier, and that's really about interpretations. So, how you're perceiving the situation. So, let's say if you're saying that you feel mistreated, well, what does that look like? And that's, when someone else, like a different perspective, comes into play and becomes very helpful, is because we can ask those questions. But let's say you feel like you are being mistreated, but let's just say that the actual situation is that, they're asking you to do a lot of things. They're asking you to, put together presentations, but everybody else is getting treated differently. They're not getting asked to do certain things. And they're asking you to, work long hours or whatever. So really think about it, because another interpretation of that is I'm really valuable. I have the skills. They're asking me to do things probably because they know I'm going to do it and because I'm really good at it. Do I want to think about it this way? And if I do, if I understand that I have value, then maybe I can take those skills somewhere else where I will feel like, yes, I am still giving value, but I'm also being treated well. So it's kind of thinking about it that way as far as your perception of what the situation of the situation and what is going on to really make an informed decision.
That is perfect. And I want to add one more thing to that, guys, because here's the thing: like if somebody's telling you you're taking on more things at work, you're saying yes to everything, you're like the go-to person, your head voice can go down the path of like, I'm being mistreated, nobody else is being treated like me, and why are they asking me to do everything? Let me tell you, my head voice has gone down there. Or it could be like, I'm such a valuable person here. I'm literally in a shoe-in for the next time like a position becomes available, because literally they give me everything because they know it's going to get done. And when you think about it this way, you can go, you know what? I am valuable here. Like these people, obviously they're asking me to do things because they know I'm going to do it at a high level. maybe it's time to set up some boundaries. Like maybe I'm still going to stay here, but I'm going to set up some boundaries. And I'm going to say, hey, listen, I can do X, Y, and Z. I will do it to my best ability, and I will be your best person. But at the same time, giving me all this stuff and taking, extra hours away is going to minimize the finished product for you guys, and it's going to make me want to like burn out. And I don't know, like maybe even go get a job somewhere else because it's just a little bit too much. Instead, I want you to continue to think of me and to continue to give me things, but I also want you to realize that I need to have some things removed off my plate. And so if I can't handle it, I'm going to tell you like, hey, like maybe you can take this other thing off my plate. If you really want this, I'm working on this piece over here. Let me know which one you want me to decide on. You can like put it back on them, and you can really just set boundaries with your current job. That's why I mean, like, there's so many nuances here. I'm kind of keeping it vague for a reason because it depends on your specific situation, right? We find out that like you're the go-to person. Well, you're the go-to person for a reason. Like they like you. They're like, this person's going to get the job done. Like they're giving you more stuff. Have you ever heard, like, if you want to get something done, give it to the busiest person in the room? It's because you're a leader. They're saying, hey, you're a leader, but you're taking it as like, oh my God, this is unfair. I'm being mistreated, right? But in reality, it's just, you need to set better boundaries and say, you know what? Sorry, I can't work overtime on these days. I can't do this. I can't do that. I have X, Y, and Z. And if they don't honor those boundaries, then maybe you can go, you know what, it's time to look elsewhere, right? But that would be a time when you can actually have a decision of like, maybe I should set up boundaries, or maybe I should rethink about how I'm thinking about this specific situation, right? Now, on the other hand, if somebody is like your boss and they're calling you an idiot and you're stupid and all these things all the time, then maybe it is time. Like, it's not time to like go, oh, well, you know what? Like, let me think about this a little differently, right? You can think about it a little differently, at the same time go, and I don't want to work here ever again, right? That's why there's a lot of nuances that are here. And that's why we're here, to like really make you aware of these things, not to overwhelm you, not to go like, oh my God, I don't want a decision. That's literally why we're here to help. At the end, I told you we have that application. We're going to give you some help, no problem. All right, just fill it out. Give us some details, right? It's because we can help personalize this a little bit more for you, okay? All right, so let's jump into number 4.
I love that. It's so empowering to be able to think about it that way. Okay. So number 4 is you have bigger dreams. So you have bigger dreams. Now, a lot of us have big dreams, I'm sure. But this may be a sign that, you want to leave your job, maybe because those dreams just don't align with what you're doing right now. Maybe your job is sucking the life out of you. And you're like, you know what? I could be doing something so much bigger, like being able to, provide so much more for my family or my community. And you just have like these bigger goals that, that staying in your current job will not be able to help you fulfill. So when you start to see that, when you start to realize that you have these big dreams that just don't align with what you're currently doing, then maybe it's time to move on.
I love that. It brought up something for me because you said like a lot of us have big dreams. And I really want you guys to think about this because a lot of us don't have big dreams. It's because Teresa and I hang out with entrepreneurs and business owners. And that's literally why in the beginning, you heard me say that we help focus on, like, we help entrepreneurs become modern leaders, right? Because here's the thing, like people in the police world, for example, they don't have big dreams, like outside of what they're currently doing. Their big dreams is continuing to work and continuing to do and make the impact in there. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's something wrong with it. But how you feel like when this one is like the one that's tugging you is like, no, there's something else out there that I was built and designed to do. There's something else out there that I'm here to make a bigger impact. So while working at LAPD, they saw that I had kind of like a gift, not only with like motivation and inspiration, but with like teaching and training. And they started to give me opportunities within LAPD to do some teaching and training. And every time I would do that, like they'd come up afterwards and everybody would be like so excited when I was talking about like mindset and leadership and all this kind of stuff, right? And so that to me was like, I can give so much more because right now I can only do this within LAPD. But what if I like actually helped more people, like more globally? And I started to think about like other organizations, other police officers, other, and then I was like, oh, first responders. And then I came out into this world. Then entrepreneurs are like, dude, I love what you got going on. Like give me your energy, right? And what I saw is that people who are entrepreneurs and business owners, they typically think in terms of like huge dreams. Like you can't contain that. You can't contain it in a W-2. I mean, W-2s are great when it comes to like security and safety, but there's a limited amount of like growth that you can actually do there. Like financial growth, like there's a limited amount of scope of what you can do. Right. And yes, you can get to the high top of the organization and whatnot, but then you're trapped into whatever that spot is. In a business, you're not. It's unlimited. It's uncapped. There's like no end. You can decide if you're going to be a solopreneur. You can be like, have 50 people in your, or you can be, Jeff Bezos, right? And there's like no cap to anything that you're doing. But really thinking about that, like thinking about you have bigger dreams. If you have bigger dreams, it's probably because there's something inside of you that's like, I want to do more. I want to be more. There's like more purpose. There's like more impact to make out there. Yes, and there's more money to be made out there, right? Does it mean you have to quit your job? It doesn't. I mean, I continue with my job while 10 years learning and developing and becoming a coach to where I am right now. It just became illogical for me to continue doing this when my coaching career like literally surpassed getting shot at on the streets in Los Angeles. Like it only happened a couple of times, but still when I think about it, like I get paid more over here when I'm coaching than when I'm actually out on the streets doing all of these like crazy things. It became illogical for me to continue to do that, plus my health, like we talked about at the beginning, right? So really thinking about this in terms of like big dreams, if you have big dreams, it means there's something else that's out there for you, right? There's like a bigger impact. There's like bigger things for you to do. Not that what you're currently doing is terrible or anything wrong with that, but it's just on your heart. It's like something is pulling to me to like really lean into my passion, my purpose, and my potential. And that's when you can do that, right? Whether you start a side hustle, whether you start like, I don't know, it doesn't even have to be a business. It could be like a nonprofit. It could be whatever it is for you. But if you're getting that tug, it's probably because you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, or you should be an entrepreneur or a business owner. It's got that creativity kind of like muscle inside of you. That's like the visioning muscle too, where it's like, this is what I want to create. And when that is like really loud, it sucks to minimize it. Cause I was like minimizing it for so many years and it just feels like you're blah, right? You're getting back into that, man, like this is a good job, but just like I just don't feel it, right? And it could be that you're missing that component, all right? All right, so that's number 4. Number 5 is a good one, okay? Your job is making you live outside your core values. So your job is making you live outside your core values. Here's what I mean to this. I have a leadership program. It's called the Ideal Leader Blueprint. It really talks a lot about like creating business goals, creating a personal goal, like really tying those two together. So your brain doesn't like convince you that there's like one, like you can only have one area of success in your life, but actually both of those you can grow exponentially. But the second piece that I do after that is I make sure that people identify what they're actually fighting for, their core values, what's near and dear to them. Because here's the thing, if you are trying to be forced to be somebody you're not, if you're trying to be like, more energetic and that's just not your thing, that's not your strength, and you're trying to like take on people's scripts, you're trying to take on their personality, it's going to feel really weird and awkward, not only for you, but the person that you're actually communicating with. And when we do that, we're basically living not within our core values. So for me, let me give you an example. My core values are health, family, integrity, and impact. Health, family, integrity, and impact. If anything is in violation of those, I feel like I'm not living in my core values, and I just feel like, I don't want to say funky, but I feel funky. I feel like there's something off. There's something going on right now. And if in my job, I have to like not actually lean into those core values, it's affecting my health, it's affecting my family. And once again, like it's not things that like I can necessarily control, right? Like I was talking about, like I controlled my schedule. I controlled as many of those things as possible. And it still got to the point where I was like, yeah, and I still want to leave because this is still having an effect on me, right? So when you think about your core values, guys, especially with your business should be an extension of your core values. So if you have something that like you're passionate about and it's within your core values, it just makes it so much more like not only believable, but Josh, my mentor, he likes to say it's like the fire turns on in your eyeballs. If you're being yourself and at the same time, you're like passionate, you're purposeful, you have a lot of potential in that area, and you're just going out and you're just trying to help people being you, there's just some kind of energy that attracts you to them that goes, this is the person that I want to learn from. This is the person I want to get a product from. This is the person I want to get a course from. And you're just getting this pull to do that. And it's because they're living in their core values and you also connect with their core values, right? So when you think about this in terms of your job, is it pulling you away from your core values? Is it, making it so that you're not leaning into your family like how you really do want to? And you've actually challenged yourself and go, hey, why is this happening? And it comes to be that that's just the values of that company, or that's just the values of what's going on over there. It's time, you can definitely use this as a time to make a decision on, hey, either there's some site corrections I need to make within this, or this is maybe time for me to make that decision to create my own business, to leave my job, to either find a new one or to create a business, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So that's number 5, is if your current job is forcing you to live without your core, or not within, but outside. There you go. I don't know why that word is like, it was elusive to me. If it's forcing you to live outside your core values, it's time to rethink it and make a decision on, is it something you can change internally, or is it something that you need to change externally, right? And that is number 5. Teresa, anything on that?
No, that basically, I mean, that's the perfect way to end, or the last tip to give, because if you feel icky about your job, then maybe it's time.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, one of the things that now, as you kind of like said, that one of the other things that I think about is like, as a business owner, sometimes we feel icky, like reaching out to people and asking them to get into our program or our product and stuff like that. That's an entirely different conversation. That's a conversation based off of what's going on in here that's making you feel icky, because you're trying to sell something rather than trying to live your core values. If you're living your core values and you just want to help people, that it's on the other side of that transaction, that's on the other side of that video, that's on the other side of YouTube right now. My goal right now is not to sell you into my program. I hope you feel that. My goal is like, I want to help this person make a decision. And if you're that person, I'm thinking about you right now going, I want to do as best as I can. I want to give you the best of me to help you make that decision, whether or not you do anything with me ever. Like, I can't tell you how many people reached out to me and I've never even known them. I never knew their name. They told me, oh my God, look at all the changes that I've been able to make because of you. And it's because I didn't even know them, but it's because I was speaking to them and I was doing whatever I can to help them, even if it's not for my programs. A lot of times when we start to like think that we have to convince people to go a certain way, or we have to make a sale, or we have to get this person to, that's when it starts to feel icky, because guess what? It's outside of your core values. Remember, for me, it's integrity. Integrity means me leading from the front, me doing things to like really help people without having any ulterior motive. Do I want to run a business and make money? Absolutely. And I'm going to do that. But if I lead into like, how can I best help the other person on the other side of this video? It doesn't make me feel icky. What makes you feel icky is like, oh my God, what should I say? Like, how can I say this in a way to get them to buy my program? Like, that is icky, because we're having these thoughts of like, it's not being the true me, because I don't really have conversations like that. I have conversations with how best can I help you and how best can I serve you, okay? So really, those are the 5 like signs. Those are the 5 signs that maybe it's time for you to make an exit. Now, we want to tell you 3 different ways that you can decide to lean into this if you choose to, right? Once again, these are just different opportunities that could present itself. Maybe you've thought of these before. Maybe you haven't even thought of these at all, which is why we want to give them to you. So you get to this point and you're like, Mark, I made a decision, and my decision is I'm going to find either a new job, or I'm going to exit this current position that I'm in right now, right? These are 3 different recommendations, 3 different things, 3 different directions that we've seen people take, and all of these have been successful. There's not one that is more successful than the others, okay? So let's start off with number 1. Number 1 is to find another job or a career that is in alignment with your values, with your health, all those things that we talked about in number 5. So it just means that you have been able to develop some skills no matter where you have worked. I really want you to think about this, all right? You develop skills literally just by working there. Being a police officer on the street, for example, you've developed a whole ton of skills which have made you valuable to the marketplace. Especially right now, like police officers are like lateraling all over because they hate this department, or they hate these bosses, or they hate this. And they're like, I want to lateral somewhere else. Realize that what you have done by working at whatever, I don't care if you're a paper route, okay? I did a paper route when I was a kid too. It increased my value because I knew how to accept money from people. I knew how to set my time management, all those kind of things. You've learned a lot from where you are. Now it's a matter of like, okay, where's somebody else or somewhere else that I can connect with to get another job, to get another career, to like work for another department, even if it's like changing from within departments. So for me personally, I was on patrol for a long time. That's where it was really deteriorating my health really quickly. My thought was like, okay, I need to make a change here. I'm going to make an internal change. And the internal change is to go from being a field sergeant to being a detective, or being a detective to being an investigator in an IA. Like, it was like these moves that was in a change, but it was a change internal because I had the opportunity to do that. Because LAPD, we have 10,000 people on the department. You can change a bunch of times. If you're in like a very small department and you got like 20 people in your department, it's very hard for you to change like departments or change like who your chief is, right? So then you'd have to have that discussion if whether or not you want to change your department. But for me, it was like an internal change. It's just you have a lot of opportunity because you've developed skills based off of where you are right now. And you are extremely valuable because you have those skills. And if you want to take those skills elsewhere, that is a great opportunity. So that's way number one, is find another job or another career that will really, truly value the skills that you have been able to develop in your last job or last career. Okay, number one. Teresa, you got number two, or you want to expand on that one, Andy?
I thought that was number two.
No, number one is find your career. What's yours?
Oh, I'm a little lost here. Okay, so create your own business would be number two, and use your strengths to do something you love to do. I mean, it's very similar to what Mark just said, is really diving into and identifying your strengths and seeing how you can actually create something from it. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to create like a product. It could be a service that you provide. Maybe you are so good at creating meals for yourself and your family, and you're good at prepping, meal prepping. I'm just kidding. I'm giving actually a real life example. Our friend Patty created a business that involves meal prepping and planning for people. So she has involved her entire family. Every Sunday, they put all of these meals together, and she sells her meals to people, local people, because she actually delivers them, and she is so good at it. She's an excellent cook. She is so good at putting things together, and they look beautiful. And she always gives more. Like, she always has, like, she pays attention to detail. But she's like that. Like, she's always been that way. We've known her for like 5 years. She took that strength of hers, because a lot of people were asking her about it, like, how do you do this? And she created a business out of it, a successful business. And she's involved her whole family, like I said. And I mean, that's super inspiring, right? That even something like meal prepping, you can create a business out of it. And right now it's word of mouth, but if she wanted to, she could make something way bigger, but she can also just decide it. But really honing in on your strengths and identifying those, and understanding that it is a strength that somebody else it's somebody else's weakness, and then you can help them. Why not create a business around that? Like, that's like the perfect way to do it. So
I love it. I love it because a lot of these things, like, for example, like if you develop a skill in your W-2, or like, let's say for Patty, for example, like she developed a skill because she was trying to lose weight. She was trying to get healthy, and she saw her problem was like meal prepping. It was like not being able to like have that, not only the consistent like schedule and the routine, but also making it a way that was like super simple so she didn't have to overthink it. And so she created for herself a solution to her problem. That's what businesses are. Businesses are there to create solutions to people's problems. In your W-2, in your job, you also have solutions to people's problems. I mean, even, for example, like police, it could be anything. Like, you've developed skills that they're willing to pay you for because you're solving a problem. You're responding to radio calls. You're solving like complex situations, right? You're doing those things. Well, that also is something that you can bring into the marketplace, and you can actually, charge for. Example. So we have people who are called collision investigators on the department. I can't tell you how many collision investigators left, and they got hired by insurance companies to actually reconstruct the actual traffic accidents to make sure that the person was telling the truth about how the accident happened. You've like literally created like this value because you've learned something, and now you could actually take it to the marketplace and actually sell it and actually make more money that way because they're paying you for a solution to a problem. It's the same thing with Patty. Patty's like, hey, this is something I'm able to do. This worked for me for a long time. And I know it's a lot of our life coaches too. It's like, this has worked for me. Why don't I tell other people about this? And then you can create a business around it where you're actually helping people solve that problem. As a matter of fact, like we ate all of Patty's foods last week because it's like so easy. It's like all we have to do is go in there. It takes 3 minutes to heat it up. It's healthy foods. It's within the container count that we have. It's within the calorie count. It's the right, like healthy things. And like it literally saves us how much time? And like for me, time is invaluable. I'll pay for time all the time. And considering how much she's charging, I'm like, man, you need to up the prices here because of the amount of value you're giving, right? But at the same time, it's the same thing for all of you guys. This is why 32% of people are leaving their job because they're like, I'm really good at this one thing. Either in it, it's like not related to your job. I'm really good at this one thing. How can I actually create a business to actually help people solve this problem? Especially if it's something you love to do. Patty loves to meal prep. Guys, you're not going to find me creating a meal prep service, okay? You're not going to find me. Early on, I was like in the health and fitness realm. Now it's a part of my message because I talk about like, your physical health. I talk about like the health and connection with your family. And then of course, like leading when it comes to your profession. Like I talk about it as a piece, but I can't just write nutrition and fitness programs anymore. I just can't do it. It's something that's not in congruence with what I really love and enjoy doing. Do I work out every day? Do I eat healthy? Do I give people ideas and suggestions, when they're in my groups? 100%. But it's also not something that I really would love to do all the time. So when you think about this, if you're going to create something, make sure it's something you also enjoy to do because you don't want to leave your job to actually get a business that you actually hate as well. You hate as much as your job, right? So definitely don't do that. So that was number 2, but there's a 2.5.
Yeah.
You're going to read that one?
Yeah, so it's develop a new skill or skills and do the same thing, like create a business around it. And for example, like for us, it was life coaching. So we, like Mark said, we were into health and fitness, and we found that the greatest transformation that we had was because we got into self-improvement, personal development. And that was really a passion of ours and mindset and all of that. So that made the biggest impact for us and actually helped us become consistent with our health and fitness. Now, the step above that for us was life coaching because we were kind of doing it already, but we didn't have the proper skills to actually really help people through that. So we found a way to be able to learn some of those skills so that we could help people. And when we created a business out of it, so that is another avenue you can take is actually going out there and learning a new skill and developing a business around that.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to leave you guys a link here. This is actually to some of the details about our Push Coach Certification School. And the reason why I want to do this is because there are some skills that you can develop that literally carry over into multiple areas of people's lives. One of those is life coaching. I know a lot of you guys, you're subscribed to this channel. It's called Modern Leadership, right? But if you haven't noticed, leadership is not the only thing I talk about. I talk about so many things. I talk about relationships, about physical and mental health, right? I talk about stress. I talk about how leaders talk. I talk like there's so many affirmations, right? I talk about like how to connect better with your family, how to make more sales, how to lead when you're not in charge. And it's all of these things because I understand the skill of life coaching. And life coaching is one of those skills. It's the reason why it's like one of the most booming things right now is because as a life coach, I can help you in the aspect of life coaching, which is like getting to the thoughts, getting into what's going on in here. But also I can help you through the lens of all the things that I've learned from being a police officer, from losing 100 pounds, from, getting into the point where I was burning out and developing shingles and developing autoimmune and now turning it around, right? I use all of these things that I was able to go through in order to actually help other people now. But I had to develop that new skill of coaching. I was coaching a lot earlier, but the coaching that I was doing was more like mentoring, telling people what I'd done to get to where I am. And that's great, but there's also an aspect of coaching, which is like asking them powerful questions, which is what we're trying to do for you guys here today, to get them to come to their conclusions, but also be there in case they do need mentoring, in case they do need some suggestions or some ideas. It's like this beautiful balance of both. So that's why when we say developing a new skill, maybe it's a new skill outside of this. Maybe you really love, woodworking, and it has nothing to do with your work, right? But you want to dive in deeper to that because you actually enjoy doing that, and you're going to develop this skill and now create a business where you sell that, right? I know people who do sheaths for knives. Like that's just like really their thing. And so they create a business around that. And that's definitely something that you can do. It doesn't have to just be all within the area that you've been able to learn and develop. It could be an entirely different new area. Okay. Number 3. You ready for this, Teresa? Anything else on that last one?
Nope.
This is the third one. And this is for all, I want you guys to like really, think about this because it's not something that for some reason most people think about, all right? Number 3 is connect with someone who does have a business and team up. Think about this for a second, guys. We have a lot of people. I mean, I teach a lot of life coaches. I teach a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners like how to create and exponentially build their business while also creating epic connections at home with their family, right? I want them to have like amazing connection with their family. And so many times I've seen entrepreneurs get stuck in like, I have to do it myself. It just has to be my business. And we have all of these different business owners that are in our groups, and I very rarely see them team up with one another and actually like create a business together. So for those of you who don't know, I team up with my mentor, Josh Coates. I know that I teach a lot of this stuff, but a lot of times you got to look, like think about this, go, wait, Mark and Josh are teaming up together and they're having some pretty good success. Like, why wouldn't I want to do this too? And that's why I wanted to put this one out too, because sometimes we think like if we're starting a business, we have to start it from scratch. It has to be ourselves and we have to do it like bootstrap it and do all that kind of stuff. And that's not the case. What if you connected with somebody else who was starting a business? What if you teamed up? What if you did a call one week and they did a call the next week? What if you teamed up to do one-on-ones? What if you teamed up to do workshops? What if you There's so many infinite possibilities. And I feel like so many people are trapped into like thinking there's one right, best, only way. There's not. There's a million different ways. And we haven't even brought them up here. These are only 3 ways, guys. But this I wanted to put out there because I want to get your mind working, all right? It doesn't have to just come with you. Example, Josh is really great. My mentor is really great at like visioning and coming up with ideas. I don't know where he comes out with where these ideas, they're freaking brilliant. But he's not the person who comes up with all the details and put the strategy together and all the teaching sessions together. That's me. I'm the stability. I'm the teacher. I'm the trainer. I'm the getting in there like every single Saturday meeting for our Push Coach Certification School to help teach people how to become powerful life coaches, right? That's my aspect of things. His aspect of things is he's freaking great at like communication, at sales, at marketing, at creating things, at like thinking outside the box. That's his thing. But what if he had to force himself to do the teaching and the training and the back end and the emails and the structure, like all of the different workbook stuff in the background? Like if he had to do all that, he would be probably like running himself into the ground right now because he has a pretty huge business. But at the same time, it wouldn't be within his strength zone. He would hate it and it would not bring out the best in him because it's not him leaning into his strengths. So what if you found somebody who you could team up with that was like really powerful in an area that you weren't so powerful in, and vice versa? And you found that and you leaned into them and you had like a success partner because they're like starting a business with you, right? And you're like generating ideas. It's not just dependent on you anymore. I mean, there's so many different possibilities here, but I wanted to plant that seed in terms of just thinking that it has to be done by you because it doesn't. You can team up with any number of people. And a lot of times like teaming up is like a great idea because it takes a lot of the pressure off of you, but it also allows you to work with somebody together. So you're not just in your own brain all the time, having these own thoughts. You're actually able to help coach each other, help keep each other accountable, and help lead each other so you can create this successful business. Teresa, what do you got?
Mic drop.
Well, I hope that one actually does help. I've been on call, and I haven't really like, said this like in front of everybody yet, but I always think that like towards the end, I'm like, hey, have you ever thought about teaming up with somebody else? And they're like, well, I haven't. Like, that's what you and Josh do, right? I'm like, yeah, that's what me and Josh do, right? They're like, oh, I never even thought about that. I'm going to reach out to this person, this person, this person. It just starts conversations. Not that this is the one right, best, only way either, but there's many different ways. It's just whether you're open to finding those solutions. All right. Before I wind this up, anything else?
No, that was great.
Okay, guys. I just want to say first off, thank you so much for being here and having this difficult conversation. Now, you might get to this point and you might be like, okay, like before I actually hit the, not only delete, but the retire early or the quit my job button, what are some things that I absolutely need to have in place before I do that? I want to caution you from just jumping in and not thinking about all those things you have to have in place. All right. I didn't just say one day I'm going to leave LAPD, put in my resignation, and then just go off into the wind. Right. I actually had to have stuff prepared. And that's why Teresa and I tackled this in one of our first videos, and it kind of went semi-viral because we talked about the 10 things you absolutely need to know before you even think of quitting your job. So if you get to this point, you're like, I'm leaning towards it's time to take an exit, right? I'm leaning towards it's time to find something else, right? I want to make sure that you check out that live video replay, all right? I'll leave it for you guys at the end here. If you are on this live, just shoot me a message. I'll send you the link to it. But it's a replay that Teresa and I did, and it is so powerful because it would give you the steps that you need to take to make sure that not only are you making the right decision, but you're also setting yourself up for success because you've thought through all of these 10 things that we share on that video. Okay, guys, I appreciate you so much for making it to the end. If you have not subscribed to this channel, definitely subscribe. We have videos, like I said, Mondays and Thursdays and longer episodes on the weekend. Definitely put this in your calendar if you found this to be helpful because there's more of this coming every single week. Thank you so much for what you do out there every single day. Literally, business leaders are the people who are making the biggest significant impact in the world right now. Not only for you, but helping people solve problems. It's such a great thing to do as a leader, even though it's most uncomfortable, even though it's trying, something new that you've never done before. Is so much, and not only so much value that you're giving, but it's also evidence for other people that it's possible for them too. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for leading from the front, and we'll see you guys really, really soon. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.